I've been waiting my entire life to make this video, and as I sit down to do it, it's still probably one of the hardest things that I've ever had to do. And it's because I have to describe one of the greatest human beings I know, my father, in mere minutes. And while I'll try to do you justice, there's way more to anything I could cram in here. But my father's one of the biggest mentors I have in my life, and he wrote me a letter that has some of the best advice that I've ever received, and it said this. It said, "I hope as you grow as a man that our relationship grows even stronger. I want our relationship to be better than the kind I had with my father. We never really did things together, and that's why I enjoy fishing, gathering wood, and delivering monuments. I know it may seem like work to you, but it's time together for me. In the future, I'll keep the wood and the delivering to minimum, but the fishing has to continue." And I'm going to come back to the fishing. But I wanted to start at the, it seems like work to me. Now, I grew up in Cleveland, and if anyone knows anything about Cleveland, we have a history of disappointments. And my father and I still adamantly watched all Cleveland sports and cheered for them, and despite never winning and always being disappointed, and it strengthened me, and I wondered why he could be so in love with something that never ever looked like it was ever going to pan out. And we would joke that it would be a miracle if a Cleveland sports team won in either of our lifetimes, but we kept watching, and it's that perseverance that even if things are hard, and my God, things have been hard, and I've watched him go through hard things, and I've been through hard things, but you keep going and you keep hoping, and that Cleveland mentality is something really unique, and it's part of the secret to my success. When others gave up, I kept going, and I knew that I had to be able to look in my father's eyes and make sure he was proud. And persevering is one of the toughest things to do, and my father is one of the most hardworking human beings I know, and his hard work and his compassion and the way he approaches life is reflected of his friends. And there's something about my father's friendships that really struck me as unique, and he has these friendships that at a moment's notice he could call someone up and they'd say, "Hey, I want to build a shed," and they'll be there that day, tools in hand, ready to go. And I was always so fascinated on how he formed these friendships, and what I learned after watching him over the years, it was he would always look at his friends and find something of theirs that they loved doing, and he would try it, and he would over time learn to love it as well, because he loved spending time with people, and if they loved doing something, then he loved doing it with them. And so he'd go out of his way to find one thing that he normally wouldn't do, that he picked up for his friends or his family, and that's, I think, one of the secret ingredients that he had to forging these friendships. And so now back to the hard part, the fishing, because he did the same thing for me, and it wasn't until I was an adult that I figured out that that's what had happened. But when I was younger, my father and I didn't really have a relationship. We were strangers in the same home, and I'll never forget it. I had a neighbor across the street. His name was Mr. Bate. He had a boat, and I loved this boat, and him, Mr. Bate and I, we'd work on it, and we go out fishing, and that was my favorite thing to do as a 9, 10-year-old kid. And Christmas morning, my father walks into my room, and he starts crying. And up until this point, I've never seen my father cry, and I don't think I have since then. And he looked at me and he said, Mr. Bate passed away, and this was Christmas morning, and I was shattered. And so my father, being my father, he tried to fill that void by picking up fishing with me. And I later found out that he did not particularly like fishing, but we went. And every time we went, he liked it a little bit more and a little bit more. And then eventually he heard about this fishing lodge in Canada, and he threw us all in the car, and him and his best friend and his son and the four of us, we went up to Canada, and we went fishing for a week. And that became kind of the time that my dad was talking about. It was our time, and it's the most important time in the world to us now, and I wouldn't trade anything for it. And I always used to hope when I was younger that I would grow up to be this big successful lawyer, and that one day I would be able to return the favor and bring my father on a fishing trip. And so if you're watching this, Dad, it means that for the first time I've been able to fulfill that promise. And it's my way of saying thank you, because I know that you did that because I needed to heal. And you stepped into a big void in my life, and you did it because you loved me, and because you knew that I needed it, and it became something that the two of us treasured. And the other thing I guess I learned from that is that from great tragedy can come these miracles, and I thank Mr. Bate every day, especially when we're down there, for the gift of my father. I don't think our relationship dynamic would have been anything like what we have right now. And from that loss forged a bond that I think my father and I's relationship is one of the strongest that you can have or hope for. And I almost didn't get the chance to fulfill this promise. He was diagnosed with cancer this year, earlier, and being my dad, beat it in a matter of months. And that just adds to the legend that is my father. He's kind, he's compassionate, he's thoughtful. I wish I were more like him, and I hope that I make him proud as a son. I aspire to be everything that he is, and he's shown me, and although I struggle a lot with it, I want him to know that I always look up to him. And I hope that this is the first of many trips that I can bring him on, because you've given me so much, and what little I can give back to show you how grateful I am, I'm going to try. So I love you, Dad. Thank you for everything.